What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest global stars sits across the table from one of daytime television's most outspoken legal minds, and neither one backs down? Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The camera pans across the table. The audience is already buzzing. It's one of those mornings where you can feel the energy before anyone even says anything. The hosts are smiling, but it's that tight, professional smile. The kind that says, we know this might get interesting. Whoopi starts things off casually. We're back with Gal Gadot, actress, producer, former Miss Israel, and of course, Wonder Woman herself. Welcome back. Applause fills the studio. Gal walks in poised, smiling, waving. She sits, crosses her legs, thanks everyone warmly. Sunny leans in almost immediately. Gal, you've always spoken about using your platform for what you believe in. And recently, you made some comments that sparked, let's just say, a lot of conversation. The audience murmurs lightly. Gal nods calmly. Yes, I believe when you have a voice, you use it responsibly. Sunny gives a polite smile, but her tone sharpens just slightly. Responsibly is an interesting word. Some people felt your comments were one-sided. There it is. The shift. Gal keeps her posture relaxed. One-sided in what way? Sunny doesn't hesitate. When you speak about geopolitical conflict, especially one that impacts millions, do you believe celebrities fully understand the consequences of what they say? The audience reacts, a few claps, a few murmurs. It's not loud, but it's noticeable. Gal answers carefully. I understand that it's complex. I don't claim to be a politician, but I am someone who has lived experience. And when violence affects your family, your friends, it stops being abstract. Joy jumps in lightly, trying to ease the tension. I mean, we all talk about things we're not politicians about, right? She chuckles. But Sunny isn't laughing. Sure, but influence matters. Words matter. Gal nods again. They do, which is why I choose them carefully. There's a slight pause. It's subtle, but you can feel the audience leaning forward. Sunny continues. But when you say you stand firmly with one side, some hear that as dismissing the suffering of others. The room goes quiet. Gal's smile fades, not dramatically, but enough. I have never dismissed anyone's suffering. Ever. Sunny tilts her head. But do you acknowledge it equally? Whoopi tries to interject. Let's let her finish. Gal takes a breath. I absolutely acknowledge innocent lives on all sides. I've said that repeatedly. What I don't do is pretend that terrorism is justified. And I won't apologize for saying that. The audience splits, some clap, some stay silent. Sunny responds quickly. No one is justifying terrorism. But some argue that framing the conversation that way simplifies a much deeper issue. Gal's tone stays measured but firmer. It becomes simple when civilians are targeted. There's a noticeable shift now. The conversation isn't polite curiosity anymore. It's layered. Alyssa leans in. Sunny, I think what Gal is saying is that her statement was about safety, not politics. Sunny looks toward Alyssa briefly. Safety for whom? The crowd reacts again, a louder murmur this time. Gal answers before anyone else can. For people who were attacked in their homes. For children. For families. Sunny nods slowly. And for Palestinian children? The question lands heavy. You can hear someone in the audience gasp softly. Gal doesn't look away. Of course. Any innocent child. Sunny presses. Then why not say that with the same clarity? Joy shifts in her seat. She just did. Sunny keeps her eyes on Gal. But historically, your public statements have focused more on one narrative. Gal's voice is still calm, but you can hear the emotion underneath now. Because that's the trauma I experienced directly. There's silence. She continues. It doesn't mean I'm blind to others. It means I speak from what I know. Whoopi nods thoughtfully. That's fair. Sunny folds her hands. But do you understand why some viewers feel that when celebrities speak from personal pain without acknowledging systemic context, it can sound incomplete? Gal's jaw tightens slightly. Pain doesn't need a footnote. The audience reacts, a mix of applause and uneasy shifting. Sunny doesn't back down. But public influence does. There it is again. That back-and-forth rhythm that makes live television unpredictable. Alyssa tries to soften things. I think we can all agree this is emotional. For everyone. Sunny nods, but keeps her focus. I just think nuance matters. Gal answers quietly but firmly. Nuance doesn't mean moral equivalence. That line draws a louder reaction. Some clap strongly. Others remain still. Joy leans back. Okay, Now we're getting into law school territory. A few laughs break the tension, but only briefly. Sunny looks straight at Gal. Do you believe there is any responsibility on your government's part in escalating conflict? The question shifts the conversation again. It's no longer about statements, it's about accountability. Gal pauses longer this time. The silence stretches. I believe every government should strive for peace, she says carefully. But I also believe a nation has the right to defend its people. Sunny replies instantly. Defense and proportionality are two different things. The audience lets out a low, oh. Whoopi raises a hand slightly. Okay. Gal sits forward now. It's the first time her body language changes noticeably. When rockets are fired into cities, what is proportional? Sunny answers. International law would say. Gal gently interrupts. International law doesn't hold my child when sirens go off. The room freezes. That wasn't shouted. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. Even Sunny pauses for a second. Joy whispers softly, wow. Sunny takes a breath. And Palestinian mothers would say the same. Gal nods slowly. I know. That acknowledgement hangs in the air. But the tension hasn't dissolved. It's just shifted. And you can tell, this conversation isn't anywhere near over. Sunny leans back slightly, but her eyes never leave Gal. The atmosphere is different now. It's not just debate, it's personal. Whoopi clears her throat gently. These conversations are hard. They're supposed to be. But let's keep it respectful. Gal nods immediately. Always. Sunny responds just as quickly. Absolutely. But the intensity hasn't cooled. Sunny folds her hands on the table. Gal, when you say you know that Palestinian mothers feel the same fear, I believe you mean that. I do. But critics say acknowledgement without advocacy can feel hollow. Do you advocate for them with the same passion? There's a subtle reaction from the audience, a few claps, a few murmurs. Gal answers calmly. I advocate for peace, for coexistence. I've supported organizations that bring Israeli and Palestinian families together. I don't always broadcast every donation or private effort. Sunny nods. Fair. But you do broadcast strong political statements. Gal gives a small, controlled smile. Because when my country is attacked, silence feels wrong. Joy jumps in. I think what's interesting is that we expect celebrities to be diplomats now. A few audience laughs. Sunny shakes her head slightly. It's not about diplomacy. It's about influence. When you have millions of followers, your words shape narratives. Gal's voice firms up. And narratives are shaped whether I speak or not. Alyssa leans forward. But Sunny, if Gal had said nothing, she would have been criticized too. Sunny replies, possibly. But there's a difference between saying violence is wrong and framing a conflict entirely through one lens. Gal responds immediately. I did say violence is wrong. Sunny counters. You said I stand firmly with Israel. That's not neutral. The audience reacts again, this time louder. Some clap. Some shake their heads. Gal sits upright. I'm not neutral about my homeland. That lands heavily. Sunny's tone softens just slightly. But neutrality isn't the same as compassion. Gal's expression shifts. She looks genuinely affected now. Compassion doesn't require me to distance myself from my identity. There's a wave of applause at that line. Whoopi glances toward the audience, then back at the table. Okay, let's unpack that. Sunny leans in again. No one is asking you to distance yourself from your identity. But when you're on a global platform, identity intersects with politics whether you want it to or not. Gal responds, measured but emotional. I never wanted to be a spokesperson for politics. I became an actress. I tell stories. Sunny replies, but you also chose to speak publicly. Gal nods. Because people I love were in danger. Sunny. And people on the other side were too. Gal doesn't hesitate. Yes. And that's tragic. There's a brief silence. The conversation feels like it's circling, but the tension is building underneath. Joy interjects lightly. I think what viewers struggle with is this idea that empathy can feel uneven. Sunny nods at Joy. Exactly. Gal looks directly at Sunny. Empathy isn't a competition. That gets applause, louder this time. Sunny waits for it to quiet down. No, it's not. But public empathy can influence policy conversations. When influential voices don't fully acknowledge structural realities, it can reinforce imbalance. Gal raises an eyebrow slightly. Are you suggesting my Instagram post affects foreign policy? A ripple of laughter breaks through the tension. Sunny smiles briefly. Not directly, but public discourse shapes pressure. Alyssa chimes in. But Sunny, we're asking an actress to carry the weight of decades of conflict. Sunny answers quickly, no. I'm asking her to recognize that when she speaks, she steps into that weight. Gal exhales slowly. You can see she's holding a lot back. She speaks carefully. I was born into that weight. The room goes quiet again. She continues. I served in the military because it's mandatory in my country. I grew up with sirens. I grew up with bomb shelters. That shapes you. Sunny listens, but doesn't fully soften. And Palestinians grow up under occupation. That shapes them too. Gal nods immediately. Yes. Sunny presses, gently but firmly. Then can you say clearly, on this show, that you believe Palestinians deserve the same safety, dignity, and statehood as Israelis? The audience reacts audibly. Some clap. Some gasp at the directness. Whoopi shifts in her seat. Sunny. But Gal answers before anyone can redirect. Yes, she says clearly. There's a mix of applause and stunned silence. Sunny tilts her head slightly. And do you believe your government's policies have always supported that? The tension spikes again. Gal pauses. This time longer than before. I believe governments are imperfect, she says carefully. All governments. Sunny doesn't blink. That's not the question. Gal's tone tightens. I'm not here to represent my government. Sunny responds. But you represent your country when you say you stand firmly with it. Joy mutters softly. Oh boy. The audience shifts, some uneasy, some riveted. Gal leans forward slightly. Standing with my country's right to exist and defend itself is not the same as endorsing every policy. Sunny answers, then say that. Gal looks straight at her. I just did. A few audience members clap. Sunny nods slowly. That's important, because nuance matters. Gal's composure wavers for the first time. Not angrily, but emotionally. Sunny, do you think this is easy for me? Sunny softens just a fraction. No, I don't. Gal continues, voice steady but vulnerable. Every time I speak, half the world calls me heartless. The other half says I didn't go far enough. And meanwhile, people are actually suffering. There's genuine quiet now. Sunny's voice lowers. That's the burden of influence. Gal responds. It's also the burden of being human. That line lands gently. No applause. Just silence. Whoopi steps in. Okay, I want to pause here for a second. She looks at both of them. This is why these conversations are hard. Because both of you are speaking from conviction. Sunny nods. Gal nods. But the tension hasn't disappeared. It's simmering under the surface. And you can tell, neither one feels fully heard yet. The audience can feel it too. This isn't resolved. Not even close. Whoopi exhales slowly and looks between them. All right, let's breathe for a second. There's a light, nervous chuckle from the audience, but it fades quickly. Sunny adjusts her notes, though she hasn't looked down at them once. Gal, I want to clarify something. This isn't personal. I respect your career. I respect your story. But when public figures speak in absolutes during conflicts, it can erase complexity. Gal nods once. I don't think saying my country has the right to exist is an absolute. I think that's foundational. A small wave of applause. Sunny responds immediately. No one here is denying that. The question is whether that right is exercised in a way that ensures equal humanity for others. Gal leans back slightly. Do you believe Israelis don't value equal humanity? Sunny pauses. I believe governments make decisions that sometimes contradict the values of their people. Gal's voice tightens. And you think I support those contradictions? Sunny answers calmly. I think when you say I stand firmly, people hear full endorsement. Joy jumps in. But that's interpretation, right? People interpret everything. Sunny looks at Joy. Interpretation matters in media. Alyssa adds. But we're also responsible for not projecting assumptions onto someone's words. Sunny nods. Which is why I'm asking her directly. Gal's composure is still there, but there's a visible edge now. Sunny, do you feel that when American celebrities speak about U.S. issues, they must publicly criticize their government to prove compassion? Sunny doesn't hesitate. Yes, and many of them do. The audience reacts, louder this time. Gal responds, and if they don't? Sunny, then they're questioned. Gal gives a small, almost incredulous smile. So this is about proving something. Sunny leans in. It's about clarity. Gal shakes her head slightly. Clarity isn't always delivered in a 200-word statement. Sunny replies, but strong allegiance can be. The audience gives a collective MMM. Whoopi looks at Sunny. Let her finish. Gal takes a breath. I have family who still live there. Friends who still live there. When attacks happen, I don't think in policy language. I think in fear. Sunny answers softly but firmly, and Palestinian families think in fear too. Gal nods immediately. Yes, I've said that. Sunny presses again. But do you challenge your own government with the same energy you defend it? The air feels heavier now. Gal's expression shifts, not anger but frustration. Do you challenge yours every time you say you love America? Sunny responds without missing a beat. Yes, I do. There's a strong reaction from the audience, applause, a few cheers. Gal tilts her head slightly. Publicly? Sunny. Absolutely. Gal pauses. Then I respect that. That moment softens things, just a little. But Sunny continues. So can you say here that you disagree with specific policies that have harmed Palestinian civilians? Whoopi looks over. Sunny, but the question is already out there. Gal takes her time answering. I disagree with any policy from any government that harms innocent civilians. Sunny nods slowly. That's still broad. Gal's voice firms up. Because I'm not a policy analyst. Sunny responds, but you are a global figure. Gal leans forward slightly. And that doesn't make me responsible for drafting peace agreements. A ripple of nervous laughter moves through the room. Joy interjects, trying to ease things. I feel like we're putting her through a Senate hearing. Some audience members laugh louder at that. Sunny doesn't smile this time. It's not a hearing. It's accountability. Gal responds immediately. Accountability for what? Loving my country. Sunny. For the implications of your platform. Gal's tone sharpens just a fraction. My platform also promotes unity, equality, and women's empowerment. That doesn't trend as much as conflict. The audience claps at that. Sunny nods. And that's commendable. But conflict is where influence has the highest stakes. Gal looks directly at her. And do you believe staying silent would have been more responsible? Sunny pauses for the first time in a while. Not silent, just more balanced. Gal's eyes narrow slightly. Balanced in a moment of attack? Sunny answers carefully. Balanced in acknowledging that cycles of violence don't begin in a single day. There's a low murmur across the audience. Gal's voice becomes quieter, but more intense. When rockets fall, you don't analyze history. You protect your children. Sunny replies just as quietly. And when displacement happens for decades, you don't forget history either. The tension peaks again. Whoopi raises both hands gently. Okay, I think what we're seeing here is lived experience versus systemic critique. Alyssa nods. Exactly. Gal turns slightly toward Whoopi. I'm not denying systemic issues exist. I'm saying my statement was about immediate safety. Sunny responds, but statements from public figures ripple beyond the immediate. Gal exhales slowly. So what would you have wanted me to say? That question lands directly. Sunny considers it. I would have wanted you to say that you stand for Israeli safety and Palestinian freedom. In the same sentence. The audience reacts, louder than before. Gal thinks for a moment. Then let me say it now. I stand for Israeli safety and Palestinian freedom. There's a strong wave of applause. Sunny nods once. That's powerful. Gal continues. But I won't allow my grief to be framed as political extremism. The applause grows. Sunny responds calmly. And I won't allow criticism to be framed as hostility. That line hits just as hard. Both women are steady now, not shouting, not emotional, but firm. The audience senses it too. This isn't chaos. It's conviction meeting conviction. Joy leans back. This is why this table exists. A few claps break out. But even with that partial bridge, the energy hasn't fully settled. There's still something unresolved. And everyone in that studio can feel it. The applause slowly fades, but the energy in the room is still charged. Not explosive, just thick. Like everyone knows they just witnessed something real. Whoopi looks down the table. This is why we have conversations. They're not always comfortable. Sunny nods, folding her hands again. And discomfort isn't disrespect. Gal gives a small, controlled smile. Agreed. There's a noticeable shift now. The sharp edges have softened, but the weight remains. Alyssa speaks up. I think what stands out here is that both of you are talking about safety and dignity, just from different angles. Joy adds, and maybe that's the bridge. The audience claps lightly. Sunny turns back to Gal, her tone calmer. I want to say this clearly. Questioning someone's public stance isn't questioning their humanity. Gal nods. And defending your homeland isn't denying someone else's. That line gets applause again, steadier this time. Whoopi leans back. All right, that's something. There's a brief pause, then Whoopi pivots slightly. Gal, has this kind of backlash changed how you'll speak in the future? Gal takes a breath. This answer feels less guarded. It's made me more aware, she says. But it hasn't made me silent. A few audience members clap immediately. She continues, I think when people are hurting, they deserve compassion. All of them. But I can't erase my identity to make my compassion acceptable. Sunny listens carefully. And I don't expect you to, Sunny responds. But I do think conversations like this matter. Because people watching at home, especially young people, are forming their understanding in real time. Gal nods slowly. Then I hope they see that disagreement doesn't mean hatred. That earns a strong round of applause. Whoopi smiles faintly. Well, they definitely saw disagreement. The audience laughs, tension finally breaking just a bit. Sunny glances toward the audience. I also hope they see that challenging someone doesn't mean canceling them. Gal meets her gaze. And being challenged doesn't mean being attacked. There's mutual acknowledgement there. Not full agreement, but respect. Joy leans forward. Social media is probably already exploding. The audience laughs again, knowing it's true. Whoopi nods. By the time we walk off this set, there'll be think pieces. Alyssa adds, there'll be clips out of context in about 5 minutes. That draws louder laughter. But everyone at the table knows it's not really a joke. Whoopi looks at Gal. Are you prepared for that part of it? Gal smiles slightly. It's part of the job now. But I hope the full conversation is what people see. Sunny nods. So do I. The camera pans slightly across the audience, some nodding, some whispering to each other, clearly moved. Whoopi shifts toward closing. At the end of the day, these issues are bigger than this table. But what happens at this table reflects what's happening in living rooms across the country. There's a thoughtful silence. Gal adds quietly, and I'm grateful we can speak openly. Sunny responds, so am I. The applause this time is unified, not explosive, but steady and sincere. As the segment wraps, the hosts thank Gal for being there. She thanks them back. There's no dramatic handshake moment, no forced hug. Just a professional nod between two strong women who held their ground. The show cuts to commercial. But the story doesn't end there. Within minutes, clips of the exchange begin circulating online. Headlines start forming, some supportive of Gal's clarity, others praising Sunny's direct questioning. Social media divides instantly. Hashtags trend. Short clips get reposted with captions that either highlight, I stand for Israeli safety and Palestinian freedom, or isolate, pain doesn't need a footnote. Comment sections fill up fast. Some viewers call it one of the most honest exchanges they've seen on daytime TV. Others argue it was too tense. Some praise Sunny for pushing for nuance. Others say Gal handled herself with remarkable composure. By the afternoon, entertainment blogs are analyzing body language. Political commentators weigh in. Talk radio picks it up. Even international outlets reference the exchange. Behind the scenes, sources say the conversation backstage was calmer, professional. No shouting. No walk-offs. Just two women aware that they stepped into something bigger than ratings. Producers reportedly expected strong reactions, but not the intensity that followed. By evening, both supporters and critics are sharing longer clips, urging people to watch the full context. And that's the key, context. Because what happened wasn't a screaming match. It wasn't chaos. It was a tense, layered, emotional conversation that reflected the complexity of a global issue playing out on a daytime stage. Back in the studio, as the credits rolled, the audience remained unusually quiet compared to a typical show. Not uncomfortable, just reflective. Some applauded louder than usual. Others sat still, clearly processing. It wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a moment, and whether viewers agreed with Sunny, with Gal, with both, or with neither, they watched. Now we want to hear from you. Did Sunny push appropriately for nuance? Did Gal strike the right balance between personal identity and public responsibility? Was this accountability or unfair pressure? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.